This video is brought to you by Kempower, the reliable, quick, and scalable EV charging solution for everyone and everywhere. And this video is also brought to you by StarCharge, the largest EV charging manufacturer in the world. They are also a provider of residential and commercial battery storage with microgrid solutions. Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. Welcome to beautiful northern Colorado. We're at home with a Kia EV9. And I'll go into the story briefly on how we got the EV9 for this video, because this is one of the first ones to come here to Colorado. But I just have to tell you, this is one of those vehicles that has been so highly anticipated by you guys and by me. And I'm happy to report on initial glance, this is not a disappointment. This might be one of the best vehicles to launch in 2023. It's not perfect, but it's damn close. And I'm going to take you on a tour as to why I think this is such a good value and such a good vehicle for this year. It's not cheap, but man, do you get a lot for your money. I also want to say a huge thank you to Fort Collins Kia. Our local Kia dealer here in the Fort Collins, Colorado area received a shipment of EV9s just yesterday, actually. I happened to be driving by in my little e-Golf and I was like, no way, look at all these EV9s. So I popped in, I said, hey, do you mind if I borrow one? And they washed it and they said, here you go, take it for the day. And I was like, hey, I want to do range tests, charging tests. And they said, that's totally fine until you see all the wind here. Can't do a range test when we have 40 mile an hour to 80 mile per hour wind gusts. That will have to wait, and it will come as soon as the weather is better. All thanks to the Kia dealership in Fort Collins. By the way, our local Kia dealer also got dumped on with a bunch of EV9s incoming. They have over 20 that are unsold and unreserved. And I actually have the numbers on lease and finance deals. I asked them to provide all this so I can give you a full, complete review of the EV9 with initial launch pricing. And I have to say, leasing this thing might actually make sense, which is something I don't typically say. So in this video, you're going to get a full tour of the EV9, front to back, inside and out. It's going to be a long one, as you can imagine, because we're going to drive it together for the first time. So let's go into everything Kia EV9. Again, another huge shout out to Kia of Fort Collins. This is actually the general manager's dad's car. It's his personal car before he takes delivery. They have a bunch more coming in that are unsold. I think they have one or two there that are unsold at the moment, but they said this spec was great. It's kind of hard to film a white vehicle with a low winter sun, but it is a fully spec'd GT line with every option. It's got the lounge seats, it's got everything. It's crazy. The sticker price on this particular one right up front is $78,145. This is a nearest makes no difference $80,000 vehicle. But when you compare it to other things in the segment, this is actually the only thing in the segment. Of course, you have Rivian R1S, but that's more of an off-roady vehicle and certainly a little bit more expensive, especially in base trim. And then you have like things like Escalade IQ or Tesla Model X, which Tesla Model X, I guess, could be a competitor. We actually have one in our driveway right now, so maybe I should do a comparison. Let me know if you want to see EV9 versus Model X versus R1S. That could be an interesting three-row SUV battle that I'm happy to bring to you. But let's focus on this car in a vacuum first. Let's evaluate the EV9, and I have to say right off the bat, it looks amazing. Come around here to the front. You've seen how good the rear looks. The front of this is so cool. What I like that Kia is doing, and also Hyundai, is each one of their models looks totally different from the one before it. If you guys come over here and take a look at this 3/4 angle, it's got these really cool, this one has the biggest, I think 21-inch wheels on this particular one. Just, it's a really cool design, and it doesn't look like their other models. So each one is individualized, and I gotta say, it's wide. This is a wide vehicle. The first thing that struck me in photos was, yeah, it looks great, looks cool. But when you get up in person, it's like, whoa, this thing is girthy. And the headlight design is cool. This one being a high-spec model has these individual sort of pixelized LED projector headlights. It's got the new Kia badge. I don't want to go too much into the styling because, of course, you all can see it with me. But since we're up front, and it's my first time with the EV9, let's go on a tour before we go through the battery specs, motor specs, and all that stuff. I'm going to pop the front trunk, which I think I do by pulling... Actually, maybe it's done on the key. That looked like a manual override. Key, hold, front, rear. No. How do we open the front trunk on this thing? There's gotta be a way. Gotta be a way to do it. Oh yeah, I hit a button 2 times here on the dash. It's an electronic release. That's kind of neat. It's beeping because I left it on. And here we have a front trunk. Now, this particular one, like I mentioned, is the GT line, all-wheel drive, every option. And so the front trunk is actually half as big as the rear-wheel drive models will be. And, you know, we'll go through all of that. But here, I imagine, is your vehicle-to-load adapter. We've all seen this from Ioniq 5 and EV6. You have a 110-volt outlet in here. You plug this into the charge port. There you go. And you have all of that goodness. So the front trunk is plenty big for like a charging cable, but it's not quite that large. In the rear-wheel drive version, you actually get twice the payload carrying capacity up here and twice the storage. I think 40 liters to 80. I don't know if that's even accurate or not, but it's almost exactly double. So there we go, windshield washer fluid, everything you would expect. Now, I also have another video on this channel taking you on a full tour of the Kia EV9. So if you've already watched that, some of this will be repetitive, but I wanted to package it all into one video for you. Come back around the side. This one, loving, I already showed you the wheels, but just loving them. They're on the Hankook Ion Evo AS SUVs. It is a 285, 45, 21 in the rear, and up front, 285, 45, 21. So it is a square setup. These wheels are so kind of neat and boxy and interesting, but they are only available, I think, on the top spec GT line. The middle spec, I have a whole sheet. I'm going to walk you through all the options. The middle spec and low spec come with smaller wheels. Coming back here, let's take a look at trunk space. Big, huge opening right here. By the way, the GT line comes with rear air suspension for self-leveling. There doesn't seem to be a way to lower the back, you know, in like Volvos and Porsche stuff, you can hit a button and drop the rear, but this is some sort of accessory carrier that would end up in the trash. Really quick, from my side, I have the third row down at the moment, but just look at the size back here. You have cup holders, USB-C ports. By the way, Kia claims they are high power USB-C ports. When we get into the real testing on this car, I will test the power output of each one of those, because sometimes it's only the front ones that are high power, etc. Nice little bag here. What do you think's in here? Mobile EVSE. Wow, I thought Kia stopped giving you these, because with EV6 they no longer give you, you know, sort of mobile connectors. And in this case, it is a J1772 on this end and a NEMA 515 on this end. So this is just a normal 120 volt wall socket. Honestly, with a battery this big, you're really not ever going to use this unless you're visiting friends and family, something to keep in the car. That's fine. Back here, we have the ability to fold the second row seating, which they are actually, the right one's moving and folding. Take a look at that. The left one is not. Wonder why. You see, Alyssa, I'm hitting the button here just to show everyone. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but it's not folding. We'll take a look over there as we get closer. Also back here, you have a 120 volt NEMA 515 outlet, and you can do 115 amps. So that's a juicy outlet. That's like, you can run a microwave or something crazy. That's pretty cool. You also have a trunk opening button right here. So if you're sleeping in here, which you probably would want the full bench seat option, not the 6 seat if you're going to be camping in your EV6, but you can open the trunk from inside, which is kind of cool. You also have a 12 volt outlet in the back, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, that second row seat doesn't want to fold, no matter. Okay, before we go inside and test the back seat, should we get into the nerd stuff, Alyssa? Nerd stuff. 99.8 kilowatt hour battery pack gross capacity. I'm not sure how much the usable is. We'll of course test it. What's interesting about all of this is in the 2 battery pack options, you get roughly a 77, 78, I think it's 78.6 kilowatt hour base battery pack. This is built on eGMP. So all of the components are shared. This is the biggest vehicle they could fit on the electric global modular platform that we're familiar with from those. What's interesting is that is roughly a 640 volt nominal battery pack, which is similar to what we've seen on the other cars. When you step up to the big battery, your voltage drops, and now you're down into a 550, 530 volt range. I'll cover all of this in detail when we do the charging. But I had to like double check everything. I'm like, how is the bigger battery less voltage? That makes no sense. And there's a few things here that I don't fully understand.
It's a wiring decision, it's a packaging decision why Kia would make the bigger battery lower voltage. But mid 500 volt nominal is a very weird voltage range for a car. And in fact, I'm kind of nervous about how the big battery will interoperate with a lot of our charging equipment here in North America. Most of our charging equipment, somewhere around 500 volts, goes into a boost stage for high voltage configurations. Keep in mind, we typically have a 400 volt class of vehicle and 800 volt class of vehicle. Kia claims in all their materials 800 volt class of vehicle. It's not an 800 volt car. It's a mid 500 volt car with the big battery. And so I think if you plug in dead, you might even be 480, 490 volts, and then the charger's gonna have to reconfigure mid-charging session. I don't know, could be kind of interesting, and it might lead to some confusion. Certainly one of the things I'll do as soon as I get a press car is plug in our EV9 test car to as much charging hardware as possible to see where these issues may arise. Okay, so you get a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. They claim 210 kilowatt charging peak speeds on the big battery, which is different than the small battery, because we all know Ioniq 5 EV6 does more, and that's true. The small battery also charges faster than the big battery. What's going on here? The small battery does 235 kilowatts stated. We all know that battery will do 240, 242 on a great day, and it's got an amazing curve. The big battery here is rated at 210, so maybe 212, 215, and that actually isn't that great. Because when you look at a Rivian R1S, that vehicle will do 215, 217 kilowatts on the large battery pack. That's a 400 volt battery pack that's getting 500 amps. In the Rivian, this is going to be like a 550 volt pack that I think is going to get high 300, low 400 amp range. I just wish that this thing would have like 300 kilowatt charging if they just kept it all maxed out. That was my hope for it. So on initial inspection, I'm a little bit disappointed from the road tripping ability, perhaps, of this. Still, 210 kilowatts is nothing to complain about, especially if the curve is good. And we all know the Rivian curve isn't great. But we're certainly going to have to dive into the charging performance. It's something I want to do as soon as possible. And trust me, as soon as I can get a vehicle from either Fort Collins Kia or from Kia's press media cars, I'll be doing all the charging tests, 10% challenges, range tests, everything to compare it to. But these are just some things that the nerds need to know up front. So big battery, slower charging, lower voltage, but more range, up to 300 and a bit miles of EPA rated range only on the big battery rear wheel drive, which has like a dog slow 0 to 60 acceleration, but good range, rear wheel drive. Hyundai Kia Genesis vehicles always perform much worse in their all-wheel drive trims than their rear-wheel drive trims, which is curious to me because they have a front axle disconnect. This essentially uses the same motors from the other eGMP vehicles. They're dual permanent magnet motors. And in the GT line, they are maxed out all the way. You'll notice in the Land and the Wind trim, Land C, I don't even know what they're called, but the middle trim ones, they're a little bit less power. You can actually software update all of the all-wheel drives to get the GT line power. It's called Function on Demand. It can be downloaded through the Kia Connect services, and it can give you that 5-second 0 to 60 that this one has. Where was I going with that? I don't even remember. But essentially, the front axle disconnect should make this a rear-wheel drive vehicle. I'm not sure why it doesn't. Uses a silicon carbide inverter on the rear axle, silicon on the front, uses the rear motor's inverter to boost up voltage at lower power charging stations or lower voltage charging stations. For example, Kia EV9 will ship with a NACS charging port. Let me show you what it's got right now. And the J3400 NACS charging port will be installed over here. When you use version 2 and version 3 superchargers, you will have to actually step up the voltage with the rear motor's inverter. So trust me, the first thing I'm going to be doing with one of these is bringing it to a Magic Dock and see if they've upgraded that boosting capability. It was about 100 kilowatts on the other car. Perhaps they upgraded this one. I'm not totally sure. But if you come in and take a look at the port here, you'll notice what's shipped on all of the Kia EV9s that are here today. These are all built in South Korea, by the way. Soon they will be built in the US with localized production. But you get J1772 and CCS, your DC pins. So it has a 48 amp onboard charger here, which is plenty. That's perfectly fine. It matches Rivian, it matches others. That's acceptable. I would have loved to see an 80 amp maybe on the max spec, but that's okay. And then again, that 210 kilowatt peak DC charging speeds on DC. But of course, I'm just as curious as you guys to see the curve on this thing. Everything about this big battery seems slightly disappointing from a voltage standpoint and from a charging peak performance standpoint because the voltage is so low. My guess is all the cabling is amperage limited at 300, 340 amps, something like that. So we'll have to play around with it and see how that all goes. Okay, enough nerd stuff, a lot of nerd stuff. I could keep going, but I think ultimately what you guys need to know is if you need a long range family hauler that's electric, which this is the car built for our market. This is the American vehicle. Nothing that I told you should scare you. 210 kilowatt charging with a great curve, similar to the smaller battery packs that I'm expecting, should be fantastic for a family road trip. And there's nothing here that scares me about the charging performance of the vehicle, the efficiency of the vehicle. Again, even if you get a GT line, fully spec'd with mid to high 200 mile of EPA estimated range, I think we're going to be totally fine. These vehicles tend to hit EPA range on the highway. And of course, I'll be testing it as soon as possible, and I'll let you know if there's an anomaly. So I should jump in the third row, right, Alyssa? We should do the third row, second row, first row test, and then software, and then drive it. So join me. Let me shut off the EV9 really quick. Boom, we're off. The door handles are all popped out now. You know, a lot of people are shocked by the price, by the way. The GT line starts at 74 grand. This one's optioned all the way up to 78. You know, the base one's in the low to mid 60s. It doesn't seem too bad, does it, Alyssa? Your thoughts? She's shaking her head no. You know, cars are expensive. While it doesn't qualify for the $7,500 tax credit because it is built in South Korea, the US factory is well under expansion, and they should be built sometime next year or the year after with US localized production. So here we go. Now we're getting the seat to move and work properly. So what I have here is I've hit the enter third row button on the seat. Come on in and take a look. And you can see the passenger rear seat is folded completely flat. And this one's sort of in the entry profile. Just to raise up the third row, I'm gonna open up the trunk. You guys stay there. I wanna see how hard it is to open the trunk. By the way, I have an upcoming video of this, I think I already mentioned, when I do that R1S comparison, I'm gonna compare all of the interior family-friendly stuff with the family, like we did with R1S. So let's pull that up, one hand, and then you have to use your other hand to lock it in place. Boom, done. The other one Velcros right back. So I'm gonna go all the way up on the rear seats. That is simple. And I'm not like a third row great reviewer, but I know I have to jump back here. So let's see how this goes. Wow. In I go. And I'm gonna pull this. Well, why don't I don't actually know if I can pull this one all the way up because it's in the down position. But first of all, when you opt for the 6-seat configuration, you can stick your feet straight out, which is great. And I actually have enough room where I can just squeeze my legs in here. It's reclined really far, by the way. And yeah, pretty good room. Obviously, if you're a full-size adult, the second row is actually massive. So put the kids back here. But I have lighting, I have awesome air vents. This is not only great for kids, but also dogs, because having these high power, truly these things rip, rear air vents are so much better than the Rivian air vents in the back. I really wish it was hot out so we could do a cool down comparison of this versus other EVs. But this thing just rips the air conditioning. I was just doing it to play around with it, and it was like, whoa, it's like a tornado back here. It's exactly what you want for, in our case, big dogs, or in your case, maybe kids after a hot soccer practice. I don't know. So cup holders, USB-C ports, like I mentioned, a little seatbelt holder here. No complaints. The only thing I'm not loving are these power second row seats. If you pop out really quick, Alyssa, let's just time how long it takes from the time I hit this button to the time I can exit. Oh, you know, that's not bad. That's totally livable. I've seen some other ones that are pretty freaking slow, actually. If you wouldn't mind holding on to that for me, that would be great. Let's see, how is the best way to get out of here? Is there a dignified way? Really not bad. You got two grab handles on your way out, one here in the roof and one here on the B-pillar. Just to show everyone the options available on the EV9, here are all the different configurations. You have your light rear wheel drive, you have your light long range rear wheel drive, which uses the big 99.8 kilowatt hour battery pack for that 304 mile of AER, all electric range. You have the wind all-wheel drive, land, and GT line. So the only one you can get the small battery in is this one. Everything else uses the big battery. And I kind of think that this base light rear wheel drive for the money might be all the vehicle people need. And it's going to charge faster. I mean, that's going to be, it would be interesting to do a comparison. The cheap one might actually be faster on a road trip. It's only 20 or 25 kilowatt faster charging speeds, but I don't know, could be kind of interesting. This one that we're testing, of course, is the full Mac Daddy GT line, all-wheel drive. Excuse the sun and everything. Anyway, I'll leave you to the Kia website where you can configure yours because there's so many options. But basically, everything you're seeing here is a fully maxed, everything optional, massaging front seats, heated and cooled and all that stuff. Let me jump here into the second row captain's chair, which has its own power fore and aft position. It has, I'm not even sure what I'm adjusting with this one. What does this do? Oh, I hear something moving. It's coming up. What? So it's like a little bit of a leg rest down here. Maybe if you're a shorter person, or especially for the passenger seat, I can put that one all the way up from back here. Then you can kind of, you know, lounge style lay forwards. That's kind of cool. And I wonder if it lets you hit these buttons while someone's in the passenger seat. All of the questions. But look at how far this thing reclines. That's crazy. I have an adjustable armrest on my side. Now, again, I think what's nice about the 6-seat configuration in this versus, say, a Tesla Model X is in our Tesla Model X that we have at home, my dad's car that we've been borrowing, the 6 seats don't fold down. So you get the cool captain chair experience, but they don't fold. And I have to say, this has a better second row with way more comfortable seats than even the Model X, and much more adjustability. And you have heated and cooling for the second row in this one. This is crazy. So I'm just absolutely loving the features that you get. Yes, it's expensive, but you're getting features that are like found only on like a Maybach EQS, which is, you know, $200,000 or something crazy. So yeah, you really get a lot for your money. And keep in mind, we're reviewing the most expensive top spec one here. But wow, I think people are going to go for these things like crazy. By the way, I mentioned that Fort Collins Kia gave me a whole bunch of numbers. I haven't forgotten. I'm going to get you the sales figures here momentarily. Let's jump up front to the driver's seat. Door handles, by the way, I just have to say, they almost appear like they're going to be flimsy or plasticky. They are a little bit plasticky on the back, but they are firm. When you open the door and close the door, this is a hefty, gives you a feeling of something solid. It's not like even a Kia EV6 has a little bit of tinniness to it. This is next level. There is a lot of sound deadening throughout this door. This is a solid brick. Come on in here because there's a bunch of controls and options that I want to show you. Cool materials throughout. Meridian, like 700 or 800 watt sound system. Bumps, by the way. It's not quite BMW iX, Bowers & Wilkins, or something crazy like that. What do you have in your car? Bang & Olufsen in the e-tron. It's not quite there, but it really is this enveloping, quite clear sound system that for, you know, Hyundai and Kia, I haven't heard a sound system from any of their cars that sounds as good as this one. So I'm very impressed with that. Again, factoring in the price that this starts at where like a base Rivian R1S comes to. And I would argue that the Meridian system in the EV9 is better than Rivian's in-house new system in their R1S. Anyway, 2 levels of steering wheel heating, 3 levels of seat heating and cooling, and a seat massage function only for the driver. I'm not sure why the passenger doesn't get the seat massage. I know in other markets they do. Must have just been a cost and packaging thing. I think that would have been really nice for Kia to add the massage for the passenger seat. However, the massage function is very similar to like the ID4 where it's an air bubble, not like, you know, in a Mercedes or an Audi where you get the individual, you know, balls going up and down your back type situation. Child lock window switches are pretty soft and flimsy. I kind of wish they would tighten up the feeling of all the buttons in this car just to give it that next level premiumness. There are some things that remind you it's still built to a cost, and that's like these buttons just feel a little chintzy. These feel a little kind of nasty. They're not terrible. You have your mirror fold function there, but it is, you do find certain things in a cabin that you just wouldn't find in a Mercedes, BMW, or something that you typically associate with an $80,000 car. But I have to say, Tesla's the same way. You find stuff in those vehicles and they're expensive. So, you know, it is what it is. We have a couple buttons down here. I just wanted to show you as well here on the front area. You have your illumination for your gauge cluster, you have your electronic parking brake, you have your fuel door release, front trunk, rear trunk, and the all-important traction control button. So you can drift your 6 or 7 passenger family SUV, which you'd be surprised, a lot of people actually do. I think people that buy these like electric cars are like us, they're enthusiasts, they like to rip around. I'm glad they let you fully turn off traction control because some vehicles don't. And yeah, props to Kia for giving us the traction control off button. Some moms and dads just want to have fun on the way to school. I'm here for it. I'm gonna move the passenger seat back now so Alyssa can find a comfortable seating position in the vehicle. One thing I think would actually be kind of nice is to have a passenger seat adjustment from the driver's side. Certain luxury cars have it and stuff, but I think it is a really nice function. This one for driver and passenger also has a lounge function for the front seats. So I don't know if you can zoom in on this here, Alyssa, but there is the thigh extension is coming all the way up. I don't personally like this so much because I always just feel weird sitting in here with like my legs split out, but you can angle the middle seat of the back and then you can kind of charge mode, relax. I just don't like being in that position, but I think some people do. So you can be coddled like a baby in your Kia EV9. Some other nice features on the inside, you get a huge central armrest, and this is where you get some of that not wonderful interior material stuff. This is all just plastic, by the way. Like, I just wish you would see something nice. It is better than piano black. There seems to be very minimal piano black in this vehicle. It's piano gray, but I'm not sure that's any better, to be honest. You get cup holders. Take a look. Let's test them out. That spin. Ready, Alyssa? Boom. Boom. Cool. You have to see which direction they go, but I love that. That's always really fun. Fingerprint scanner for choosing your drive profile. Auto hold, hill descent control. We should do a hill climb challenge in this. Your camera, buttons, and your parking assist. There's also a wireless charger right here in the center, and you have the smallest center armrest I've ever seen with this really not buttoned down foam piece. That should have been Velcroed down. Can you hear that? I can move it around, it doesn't fit. Okay, that's not so good, is it? And then just some shipping plastic left over on this particular one. More cup holders in the back. Oh, I forgot to show you the coolest feature in the back. I got to show you that. Down here, more USB ports. You can turn them from data and power to just power only for this one, which is cool. So if you like don't want to have CarPlay or something, you can turn that off. And you also have your 12-volt socket right there for a radar detector or whatever you want to run. Huge underfloor storage here. This whole vehicle seems to be about maximizing storage, and I'm really impressed with it. There's a super deep, oh my goodness, center console here. That, what is this thing called? Glove box. Goes really deep. That's awesome. The front sunshade here is a powered by human sunshade, not a powered by electronics. But the rear one, if you can look back there, that one does have a switch. The car's off at the moment, but that rear one power opens and closes. Pretty loud motor on that rear sunshade. I wish it was a little bit quieter. It's a very nitpicky thing to say as a car reviewer, that the rear sunshade was quieter. Anyway, digital rearview mirror that can switch between digital and sort of a traditional mirror. This is just part of the delivery, tells you what all these buttons do, but everyone will rip that off. You also have your Kia Connect functions, and there you go. So let's jump in. I want to show you this rear thing first. Let's go through numbers, availability, specs really quick, software, and then we'll drive it. So let me jump into the back seat. Alyssa, if you can open up that rear seat, that rear door to showcase the seat, that would be great. I'm just putting up this second row from the fold position. This is where like a manual seat could go a little bit faster. And I feel like they could have saved the money on the power seats on this and then given us maybe better materials. I don't know. Check this out. Whoa, this comes out and then you get this like center, I don't even know how to describe it, little tray for eating, and you get a hugely deep console. So while this has the most shallow console up here, if you take a look where my hand is, this portion is pretty shallow. This is where you get your deep storage for the kids in the back, and just great ambient lighting throughout this vehicle as well. I think this is really nicely implemented. I believe this can actually come out completely as well, and there might even be other accessories that can go between the two seats back here. So yeah, let's go through specs, numbers, and then we'll drive.
All right, folks, let's get down to business on the numbers. Now, because I actually grabbed this car from a dealership, I asked the dealership general manager, Mike, if he wouldn't mind producing some lease numbers for in-state and out-of-state. And again, that they didn't pay us to review their car. It was really kind of them to let us use this. And actually, the day that this video is going up, they're loaning me another one where I can do a range test and charging test. But I think this is cool. I asked them to run me, most of what they're getting are sort of fully spec GT line maxed out ones, but they have a couple mid specs and even one rear wheel drive long range that I thought maybe someone in California would be interested in, or even here in Colorado, because the lease numbers are looking pretty good. So let's start at the cheapest and then we'll work our way up. So if you live in Colorado, this is literally an in-stock, unsold unit. I actually think maybe not in stock, but within a week or two. Anyway, MSRP is $61,600, 67% residual on all the trims. That's a really high residual considering the car market these days. That's great. You'll notice this is a 24-month lease. And the reason 24 months works better is because you can actually get the $7,500 federal tax credit, plus in this case, a $4,800 state incentive. So this is with state, and then I have one if you're not in state. But if you're in Colorado, it's a great one to do. This is not including taxes and fees, so keep that in mind. But with $3,000 down, $2,999, you're at $562 a month. So with taxes, maybe $599 a month, something like that. $600 a month, $3,000 down for a full-size electric SUV 3-row. Normally I'm not one to recommend leases, but you actually do get a portion of that $7,500 credit and the state, which a lot of people don't qualify for both, but you get it in your lease. You could lease it and then buy it out at the end. Could be kind of interesting. That does include the acquisition and dealer fee as well. If you're out of state, same result. You just can't apply all of that huge Colorado tax incentive, and it's $790 a month in that case. So this is sort of on a rear wheel drive, light, long range. And I know there will be some people wanting that, but again, it sounds like the majority of vehicles that they have, again, selling at sticker, if you were to finance it, that's totally on you. I'm also just noticing the money factor is a little bit better on the GT line than the light rear wheel drive. This is 0.00308, and this is 0.00238. You can multiply this number times 2,400. I know it sounds weird and arbitrary, but that gives you a rough interest rate that you'll be paying on the lease. So, yep, I don't know why that 2,400 number exists, but it's always been there. It's the way the car business has gone for a while, not sure. So this makes a lot of sense to me too. You're at $760 a month with $3,000 down on a fully spec'd GT line. This is a $76,000 sticker, so probably similar to the car we test in this video. I think without the Relax Pack was the only difference on this one. 67% residual, 10,000 miles a year on all of these leases, I should add as well. And so when you add in taxes and fees, maybe you're at $800 a month, $3,000 down. That's freaking sweet. And if you're out, you'll probably be at about $1,000 a month, $3,000 down on a lease without the state incentives. Really shows living in Colorado helps quite a bit with the numbers here. Again, you can always finance the car if you're going to keep it. That's probably the cleanest way to do it, but you may actually save money even going through the acquisition and the disposition fee at the end of it and all that stuff just to get that tax credit benefit, because again, this vehicle is not built in the US yet. And this is a little loophole, a little lease loophole. And I should also mention, they didn't really make this very clear, but I'm just going to make it clear. These numbers will change every month, just like every dealership, et cetera, et cetera. But I have to say, the folks at Fort Collins Kia, this is our first time working with them or even just like borrowing one of their cars. And we brought Ellie by today. They're dog people. They're super friendly. They're viewers. A couple of the salespeople there actually drive electric cars. One of them bought an EV6 after our review. So I was just like, these are our people. And I would love it if you could support them as well. But again, that would just be kind of a neat deal. But these are the numbers. And I think, damn, that is a pretty damn good value if you just need a runabout for a few years and then want to swap into something else. Maybe not a bad deal.
Well, you joined me in the driver's seat now, and I have to say it's not hard to get comfortable in this one. Fantastic seats. Great comfort, great support. I particularly love this sort of mesh headrest that has a little bit of play to it. It almost feels a little bit like those Mercedes-Benz pillows, but it seems like it's a cool, sustainable material, fully leather-free, available. And I actually think even all EV9s are leather-free, and they use recycled plastics and all that cool stuff. So that's great. Don't quote me on that, but I think I read that this is a much more sustainable interior than you would expect, more or less. So first things first, huge mirrors. Those have to be the biggest ones I've ever seen in a car. Alyssa, what do you think?
Massive.
Massive. Okay, cool. So that's a way to make you feel terrible about yourself when you pull that thing open. You got your shade controls up here. You got your like SOS roadside assistance. No, don't actually call them. Canceled. And then you get normal buttons. The interesting thing is on the shifter, you have this sort of extension coming out here behind the wheel, and the inner button is your start button. Why still Kia doesn't just have, just put it in drive and go? Why they need a start button, I don't fully understand. And also there's like weird things about the car where you have this little light on the dash, and this light, when it's orange, signifies that the high voltage battery is charging up the 12 volt battery. It's like, why does anyone ever need to know when the big battery is charging the small battery? These are just dumb things that don't matter. And I think it's actually, at least on EV6 and Ioniq 5, I think only the US market gets that. And, Hyundai, Kia have had some issues with 12 volt in the past, but it's like, that shouldn't be something we have to think about. So again, some weird things going on here. But I do like the shifter location where you twist it forward for drive, twist it back for reverse, hit the end for park. It's actually, Volkswagen does something very similar in like the ID Buzz is like this, and updated models, ID7, things like that. So you come in here, you hit start. Now, the key for the EV9 is a really nice, this particular one is the white key, and you have your smart park where you can drive it forwards and backwards and hold to open the front trunk and hold to remote start it. So it's very traditional sort of combustion car logic with the key. And then you have your rear trunk alarm unlock, and then the grenade lock button here. And the Kia lights, I'm just noticing, look at this. Kia lights up green every time you hit a button. How cool is that? Neato. But what's nice is, at least in the EV9, you don't have to use your key. You can use your phone as a key. So I really like that feature, just from owning Tesla and Rivian and Lucid and other vehicles that we're in and out of all the time. It's so nice that the one device that's always with me is also the key for my car, and then you can just use these as a backup. So that is great, and I'm really happy to see Kia implementing phone as a key. Coming through the dash of the car, I just have to share my feeling of sitting here. It gives you this expansive, luxury, big SUV feeling. This is like a similar view to what I get out the front of Range Rover-ish, Mercedes GLS. You get this very wide feeling car, and that is cool. Everyone who gets in this with a family is going to be like, whoa, there's room to breathe, which most EVs, of course, are trying to get as narrow as possible and this egg shape because of range and everything. Kia just went, nope, we're making a Telluride that's electric, and that's what they've done here, and it's great. So standard light controls and standard windshield wiper stuff over here. On the left side of the steering wheel, you have all your driver assistance functions. One really cool thing that Hyundai Kia uses in HDA2 is you can actually do auto steer, lane centering, separate from adaptive cruise control. So you can be driving around the city and the car will just kind of nudge you and keep you in the middle of the lane. Meanwhile, you're controlling throttle and deceleration, which I think is great. On the right side, you have all of your infotainment stuff. So your volume knob, your next track, and all of these things will pop up in your head-up display, which this one is equipped with like a 12-inch head-up display or something massive. You get the dual 12.4-inch displays here with a central 5-point-something-inch display. This is where you can control your air, where it's all going to go. For the most part, leave it on auto sync at 72. I do actually really like this mix of hard buttons with some of the software. And what's cool is this central display for all of your climate, I thought would be kind of annoying, but it's really nice to have it up all the time within reach. And then you just have a couple little buttons here for temperature and fan. I think they did a really good job implementing this. I also have separate rear controls, so I can blast the fan in the back or force air conditioning on or what have you, and I think that's really great. I can also pull up a air conditioning menu and even control the rear heated seats and rear cooling in the back from this front screen. So that is really nice to have all of this control. You can lock your kids out from hitting the control, having the control in the rear. This is a really nice function. Actually, I'm a big fan of how this is all integrated. Okay, so is there anything else I should tell you really quick before we get into software? Yeah, maybe I'll explain what these two buttons do at the bottom of the steering wheel. For example, this mode button is changing the mode of your audio source. This is your drive mode switch that goes from Eco, Normal, Sport, My Drive, which is a customizable one, and Snow. For the most part, I recommend driving this vehicle in normal mode. There's really no reason to drive any other. Sport mode keeps the front axle engaged all of the time so that there's less lag when you slam on the accelerator pedal, because we'll talk about it when we drive it, but there is a reconnect process. However, if you keep the vehicle in I pedal, which is the one pedal driving setting, the front motor is always connected anyway, and then you get lighter steering and stuff like that. The dampers, well, we'll get into the driving stuff in a minute. Okay, software. We have kind of a bunch to get into now. This is the first time I've seen this level of snappiness, this level of response from a Kia software unit. But I will say it's still not nearly as good as the startups. I mean, Rivian and Tesla are setting the benchmark for in-car user experience with these big screens with fantastic user intuitive, control logic. This is still very much old school, where you have your HMI settings separate from the rest of the car. I'd love to see a little bit more integration. I'd love to see a bigger screen here with sort of a next generation software, but there's still a lot you can do here. So, for example, if I come in here to maps, you can see I can zoom out, zoom around, it's all good. The one thing I can't show you in this vehicle right now is route planning, because this one is an unsold, undelivered unit, and the Kia Connect services haven't been activated yet. But I promise you, we will go on a road trip in an EV9 at some point, and we will try what Kia claims to be a revised and much improved route planning logic. I just can't show you in this particular one, but it does have route planning. Plug-in charge will be coming, and battery preconditioning it does have, but with very weird logic. For example, the eGMP cars won't precondition below 20% state of charge, which is when you want to get to a charging station. So that all needs a little bit of work, and maybe it should be worth talking to some of their software engineers at some point to say, hey, at least in the American market, here's what EV drivers want. Could be maybe worth a try. There's also an EV menu. I'd like to take a look at this. Whoa. Okay, see what I mean about user interface and control stuff? So interesting, there is a battery conditioning manual activation. So you can see it says battery temperature is low, and I've activated battery conditioning. Let's keep that on. Let's do that. That's cool. We also have a battery state of charge limit for DC charging and AC charging separately. And I would say probably DC, keep it 100%, but AC, always charge to the lowest that you really need on a daily basis. But I think most people will charge to 70 to 80% on a day-to-day basis, and then go up to 100% when they need it for a long trip. There's also the V to L adapter that lets you go down, looks like to about 20% state of charge. You can have it shut off, or even 60% state of charge. If you're running something, it'll automatically shut the ports off, and the rear charge port. Is that a double port, charge port? Charging timers, all that good stuff. All of this is pretty familiar, but this is kind of cool. I love how it shows you your electricity usage. All Hyundai Kia vehicles have done this for a long time, but I think it's really cool to see how much power you can get under regen and acceleration and all of these things. And of course, we're going to be trying all of that. You have your range history, electricity use. It's all good data that you get in this vehicle for sure. Let's see what other menus are in here of note. You have your phone, you have like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which I still think maybe needs to be wireless. Oh no, Bluetooth, great. So it is a wireless CarPlay, it seems, versus wired of years past. There's some seat settings. Let's see what we have here. We have second row seat warmer ventilation. Oh, I can actually control the forward and rear position of the seats in the back. So that's kind of cool. I don't even know how I got there. Yeah, seats, boom. I can turn the warmers on, and then I can fold or unfold the second row seats, which is great. So fantastic stuff here. There's weather settings, but we can't do it because we don't have Kia set up. A bunch of options, of course, the vehicle to set everything up. So this we're all familiar with. There's just so many settings, so many features. You have active sound design that can pipe in fake noise. We have it turned off at the moment. There's driver assistance settings and so many things. And perhaps when we get one in for an extended period, I'll take you on a full tour of all of this. I've been playing around with some of the sound settings. It sounds great, really fantastic. There's a smart regen system in auto. Battery conditioning is activated. So that is cool. I love how it has a manual battery preconditioning. You no longer need to search for the little charging station. And what's great about this is so many Hyundai, Kia, Genesis drivers use Apple CarPlay for maps or Android Auto for maps that now you can still get battery preconditioning with those. So this is really amazing. And you can turn off the silly charging started prompt. Every time the charging starts, it screams on the outside of the car, charging started. It's like, not everyone needs to know what we're up to around here. So that's great. So vehicle diagnostics, all this stuff is pretty the same as the other car. I think that's enough of a tour. Alyssa, why don't you give us just some final thoughts? I'm going to hand the mic back to you if I can get it out of here. I just love to get, because you're such a practical person. What do you think about the EV9?
Just sitting in the back here.
If you could just hold the mic up.
Oh yeah, that's how this works, right?
Yeah.
Sitting in the back here, it is very, very roomy. I personally would want to see the full seat configuration here because of the dogs. We already personally know that they don't like it when it's in the middle here. But anyways, just in terms of space, I don't feel cramped. And all these controls and stuff, and these are really nice. Kyle said the airflow is really great, so I guess I'll try that out later. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely a really great contender. It's a great car to bring to the market. Well, I'm curious to see if people do want to buy it. I think a lot of people are interested in it. I think the pricing is a little bit squirrely for some, but when it comes to the market, I don't really see that kind of confusion to what people expect this car to be worth. Because I know like the Kia Telluride is what, around the
60s.
Yeah, and so yeah, you're paying for a battery pack, so pretty much, I mean, it seems pretty on par. It's not outrageously expensive in my opinion. But yeah, it's really comfy. These seats, I really like this headrest. It's super comfortable. And yeah, I mean, I like it. The plastic parts that Kyle's talked about, that doesn't really bother me at all. I think the one thing is the window up and down switch is very, very, very soft, which is abnormal to me, but it didn't bother me. And yeah, everything else just seems, it's like a minivan, but no sliding doors. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a minivan. It reminds me a lot of a minivan. I think it's this seating always reminds me of minivan. But yeah, I dig it. I like it. That's my consensus.
You join me and Alyssa inside of the Kia EV9 for the driving portion. And what we're going to do is we're going to drive it to simulate sort of city driving, highway driving, and canyon driving. And we're actually going to start sort of with a general drive with a couple twists. It's not a performance car, but I have heard that these things drive pretty well. All Kias are pretty well sorted. Remember, we had the EV6 GT.
Yeah.
And damn, that thing was a ripper.
That got us in trouble.
Got us in trouble a few times. That car was crazy. And we were just full sideways everywhere in this EV6. It was just awesome. So I don't expect that crazy spicy character from this, but we do know there will be an EV9 GT coming.
Mm.
And so I'm really excited about that one. That could be like a really hot, spicy SUV. But if this is already 80 grand, is that going to be 90, 95, 100?
For a Kia.
For a Kia. Well, I think we're kind of past those days. Certainly we'll see the comments on YouTube of people being like, well, I would never pay that much for a Kia, but honestly, drive the car.
That's what Colton said. He said, I don't want to like it because it's a Kia. I'm like, why would you ever have that mindset with cars?
I don't know. Kia's just so good these days.
Car is a car, no matter whose it's made by.
Yeah, and you really should evaluate individual models rather than brands, because every brand has hit and misses. And certainly I can find some Kia models I don't like. What are you doing?
This is going. This is full passenger princess mode here.
What I want to do is just roughly talk about the day-to-day driving of this particular car. And I think it starts with to understand that this is a full-size, pretty much, SUV with I love the digital rear view mirror in this one. It is optional, but I think it's really nice, especially if you have kids or dogs or stuff piling up the inside of the car. You get a clear view to the back, so that's really wonderful. But I don't want to spend too much time on it because all of the control logic is very similar to EV6 and Ioniq 5, but there's probably many EV9 buyers that don't understand this stuff. So I'm just going to briefly walk everyone through just the huge amount of regen settings to start. So to start, there's a setting with level 0 regen, and there's a little bar in the bottom right hand corner of the screen here. I also love how it tells me the battery's heating up with 3 bacon strips on the battery. That's because I hit battery preconditioning. And in normal mode with regen on level 0, when I lift off, there is no recuperation, there's no coasting, and the car is just, coasting along just fine. If I pull the left paddle, we get level 1 regen, which gives us a little bit. If I pull it again, we get level 2, which gives us more. And if I pull it again, we get level 3, which gives us a ton of regen. But wait, there's more. If I pull and hold the left paddle at any point in any mode, I will always get maximum regen. See, it goes to max. This is everything it can do for max regen, except it's not, because if I touch the brake pedal
is this a QVC commercial?
But if I touch the brake pedal, actually blend in a little bit more regen along with the friction brakes.
No way, is there more?
And for only 3 payments of $19.95, you can pull the left pedal all the way and enter I pedal. And I pedal gives you full 1 pedal driving. There's no one around us, so I've lifted off and you can see it's coming to a complete stop. I'm not touching the pedals at all. This is a true 1 pedal driving experience, and it is perfect.
This is just such a great buy, Kyle.
That was probably the smoothest 1 pedal driving I've ever experienced. That's on par with the best of the best. And so honestly, I would keep it in I pedal all of the time. The only problem is if you're cruising down the highway, not using cruise control, and you're in I pedal, the front motor is always connected. So you do have some flux related losses up there. So if you want to go maximum efficiency on the highway, take it out of I pedal. And honestly, coasting's more efficient than regenning and all that stuff. I do that for every EGMP review, so I think I got through that quicker in this one than others. So I think we're good. Everyone should understand it. There's a lot of different ones. But wait, there's more. If I hold the right paddle all the way down, I actually have an auto mode for regen, which changes the regen forces based off of my distance to the car in front or behind. And what's cool is there are multiple auto modes. There's more. So once I'm in auto, I can then use the paddles for like 3 different auto settings of natural regen. And then of course you have max. So we're going to put the vehicle I'm going to hold the right paddle back into I pedal. On top of all of this, we have different drive modes. I was in normal, but eco mode actually forces the vehicle to be rear wheel drive entirely, unless you're in I pedal. So watch what happens when I floor it in eco mode. It should actually be pretty comparable to the rear wheel drive EV9. Ready? Holding on tight?
Yep.
Let me know if this feels fast. In 3, 2, 1. That actually engaged the front motor in this one. How about that? Interessante. So typically in the other cars, front motor's engaged, and we're not in I pedal. Cool. So forget what I said about that, but that is interesting. Felt pretty fast in eco mode, but it didn't give us everything.
It'll do.
I'm going to go to sport mode, which engages the front motor all of the time, regardless of regen settings. So now it's instant power. The thing is, when you're in normal mode and the automatic clutch disconnect is going and locking and unlocking, essentially, when you floor it, have a slight delay to when power comes on. So, Alyssa, you ready for a full launch of the EV9?
Yep, feet are uncrossed.
Okay, feet are uncrossed. Now I want you to give everyone your impressions of this, okay? We're in sport mode, 2-foot launch, go.
That is a pretty good pull for a big car.
I think it's plenty. It's 5 seconds, 0 to 60 or so.
I don't understand everybody's need for speed here. I mean, a lot of you guys don't even punch it, man.
Yeah, we're usually in the slower car keeping up with faster cars.
Yeah.
But the thing is, of course, I'm going to turn off the lane centering at the moment because it sometimes gets confused on twisty roads. The non-GT line has slightly less power, but you can actually purchase a software upgrade to unlock the front motor to make the same power as this one.
Through Kia?
Through Kia, it's through the thing here. I don't know how much it costs, but in the spec sheet, it gives you a with and without function on demand for those.
So there's a ton of different options and specs and stuff. Now, we're not going to be ripping on these roads or doing anything crazy, but we do just want to get a sense of how the EV9 feels if you have a mountain house or if you live up in the hills. And so we're just going to kind of, again, bear in mind this car's an unbroken in car. We're on public roads. We're going to be very gentle on it. Let's just get a feeling of how this one drives nicely. So the one pedal driving is great with huge regen. There's not much steering feel, and honestly the steering ratio is not that fast, but the responsiveness of the acceleration where I can have it when I want it and regen when I need it there, it's really actually quite good. And yeah, I mean, it feels big, it feels quite heavy. This is a 6,000 pound SUV or so. Between the base spec and the highest trim, there's about an 800 pound difference in vehicle weight. That includes a bigger battery pack, extra motors, more content in the vehicle, and I think that's all pretty reasonable. But I have to say, just general cruising around a road like this, it's extremely balanced, confidence inspiring. The brake pedal is right there and firm and strong, and I'm not going to go like full brakes in this dude's car because it's not a press car I really want to rip on.
Yeah, no.
But you know, just to get a sense of just driving gently around here in the hills, confidence inspiring, plenty of power on tap, great feeling of everything feels great. So it can do the hilly stuff if you need it to.
It can. It certainly can.
And from your position, what's your impression of the driving, of the noise, the sound of everything? Because I can't even hear the motors.
Yeah, no, it's very quiet. It's peaceful. I mean, I think a couple of you guys might have caught me yawning on this. It's not because I'm bored, it's just I'm just so relaxed. And I might be a little bored. But no, it's very relaxing, especially with this recline in the seat and the headrest. The way I test headrests, I really just, you know, give it a good bang, because
our resident headrest tester, losing brain cells every time.
I mean, yeah. Oh well, because Kyle does like to randomly floor it, so that's usually how I get the test of everything. But I think because it has this webbing, it has more of a bounce back, which is nice.
I don't know if these are just for the GT line or if other models
I
get
have
them.
a feeling it is just for the GT line.
It's worth the 80 grand.
Because it says GT line right there.
Yeah, they're GT line specific seats.
Yeah.
They're nice.
Yeah, they're nice, but...
these seats rock. And when you put it in sport mode, the seats squeeze you.
Are they squeezed you?
Yeah, at least on my side. Yours, I think, has less function than my seat.
They
See if you feel it when I come to normal mode. Do you feel them let go?
No.
Okay, yeah, so it must just be the driver's seat. Could be a setting as well. I just want to explain to the viewers very quickly what the dampers are. And they are not an adaptive damper, but they are a frequency response damper. So similar to like Model 3 Highland. We weren't even tailgating that guy and he pulled over for us. That was nice of him.
It's only when we don't actually want to go fast.
Yeah, when we don't want to go fast, people pull over. When we do want to go fast, they don't. Whoa, Jeep under full ABS. That dude was sending it all in the wrong places. That's why you always got to stay between the mustard and the mayo on your side. Never cross double yellows. And just be sensible on back roads, of course. The dampers are frequency response damper, which means that the output is based on the input. There is a hydraulic sort of rebound bump stop as part of that damper as well, which is kind of cool. So the bump stop should feel kind of cool. We're not going to rip on this one, but maybe when we get the press car, we'll drive it pretty hard and see how that's all tuned. Not that it needs to be a performance car. ICE possible, drive with care. Thank you. We know it is possible. Then, other than the frequency response damper, most EV9s have a completely steel suspension, except for the GT line, which has rear air springs. So there's actually an air component in the back for self-leveling. So if you get the towing package, I imagine you can tow up to 5,000 pounds when equipped. And I think that when equipped means you have to get the leveling rear air. I don't know that to be true. Maybe someone can correct me in the comments, but there is a $3,500 pound base towing, and then a 5,000 pound towing, which says with optional extras. And that would be the only suspension change extra that I could think of. So there we have it. It feels very competent on a back road. I say we go drive it on the highway. That's what I'm most curious about.
Yeah,
driver assistance. Yeah, because this is going to be the family road tripper. So you got to make sure it's going to cruise.
You're also coming from, like, I don't know, Honda Odyssey or the Kia Carnival, which I saw somebody made a comment that they really want the Kia Carnival to become either a hybrid or fully electric, which would be a great idea. But I think this is a great compromise, but her comment was that she needed something that was wheelchair accessible, and this one's not as friendly. So
yeah, there are some ADA requirements for vehicles and stuff like that. But yeah, let's go take this down the highway. Oh, I have one complaint.
Oh.
Battery conditioning complete. Wow, nice. It tells you.
Do you have it programmed somewhere?
I had it programmed to manually precondition.
So you're just doing it?
Yeah, so I just hit it to do that, and it said it was done. That's cool. It must be because we were ripping on it. I've never driven so slow in my life around here.
Yeah.
But anyway, the steering wheel doesn't come out far enough.
Oh yeah, that's right. You sit little grandma?
Yeah, so I got to go full grandma to get in a race position in my 3-row Kia EV9. Because like here,
You do not need to be that close.
just trying to think where I would want to be for like if I was actually ripping, this would be it.
Yeah.
I really want, you know, I tend to sit close to the steering wheel. That means my knees are in the dash, and people are always like, Kyle, you don't fit in that car. I'm like, no, I just want to be close to the wheel.
He just likes to drive like grandma.
All right, well, let's flip a U-turn, although this isn't really the safest place to do it. We'll find a spot up here to make a U-turn, and yeah, maybe I'll rip it around a little bit off camera, allegedly. 240 kilowatt Regen, baby. Nice. Let's see if we can go for more. 273 kilowatt Regen, baby. 273. And we're at 70% state of charge. This is crazy. Well, viewers, you join us cruising at 75 miles an hour on probably the loudest pavement known to man. And I have to say, your impression.
It's pretty quiet. Could be quieter.
Pretty quiet. Definitely could be quieter. Where there's no Rolls-Royce Spectre here. There's no e-tron.
But it's the price of the e-tron.
It's the price of the e-tron?
Well, my e-tron. It's more expensive than my e-tron.
Yeah, certainly a top spec one of these is but different classes of vehicle.
You different.
That's a smaller SUV with 5 seats.
Oh.
This is a 7-passenger full size.
Well, I think if it had more people in there, it would be quieter.
Yeah, honestly, I have no complaints about the noise performance.
No.
It's not like blowing me away how quiet it is, but there's zero wind noise, and we're on really loud pavement right now.
Yeah,
It's sort of this
really
concrete.
windy.
Yeah, and it's really windy. There's no wind.
No.
It's mostly road noise being transferred through. And
Right.
we're also on the biggest tires. So noise performance is as expected, but I would say my expectations were already pretty high from EV6 and Ioniq 5. We already know those are high quality, nice vehicles, so I was expecting the same here, and it totally matched it. This is a car I'm going to kick on the massaging seat. I've got the full driver assistance suite going. Now, we're not technically on a highway, but we are on a 70, 75 mile an hour road to simulate a highway, and you can just cruise in this thing with great driver assistance, with a pretty good sound system we were just listening to, massage seats on, and honestly, really impressive cruising ability. I'm actually surprised how soft they tuned it. It almost has, and yeah, I guess this one does have air suspension in the rear, but I was going to say it has almost this air suspension waft to it. Macan and Papaya in front of us ripping it full send so that we didn't have to slow down too much. That was nice. It's just tuned well. It's a little bit wafty, which is a very premium feeling that Rivians have and your e-tron has, and I was not expecting it to be that smooth. And the only thing I think still needs work is this software and UI. It just looks unappealing, and it just is like we need a full rethink, full integration. Basically copy Tesla, copy Rivian, copy Neo, Xpeng, and give us one of those, because this just feels very fragmented, segmented, different screens doing different stuff, totally different design logic screen to screen. And I'm not like a UI guy, but I think that's the weak point of the whole EV9 for me. Now, most people will probably just run CarPlay and never think about it.
Yeah, it wouldn't bother me one bit.
Yeah, it wouldn't bother you at all. And then really, I would just try and, I don't know if you can program one of the hotkeys here to do battery preconditioning, but that would be so nice. You can program it to get you to the electric vehicle menu, and then you're one click away to battery precondition. So that's all I would need, really. And the preconditioning happened fast.
Yeah,
That was crazy. I can't wait to get it in for charge testing and range testing and all of that stuff to come. But cruising down the highway here, wow, it's been amazing. The last thing we really need to touch on with this car is
city maneuverability, parking, cameras, to see how well it works as quite a big car in an urban environment. So let's go bring it to downtown Fort Collins and bring it to a parking garage. Yeah, park it, inch it around with the one pedal driving, and just see how it feels for the daily city commute. I will say this Macan has no idea where they're going, but thankfully there's a ton of Regen. We had 275 kilowatts, 274 kilowatt Regen at 70%, which means it'll probably do 300 kilowatt Regen at low state of charge on the highway. Crazy. I think they might be leading. Hummer EV had 400 kilowatt Regen. I don't think I've ever seen higher than that yet.
No.
That thing needed it too. That was a big, heavy vehicle. All right, let's pop into town. Well, you join us driving by the office right now, which means we have entered downtown Fort Collins. Woo. And a couple things I love off the bat that aren't necessarily new technologies, but I think are really great. First of all, great blind spot monitoring in the mirrors with heated as well as the blind spot indication that shows up on the screen. So for example, if I put my right turn signal on, I get the picture right here, just like Tesla, just like Honda had back in the day and Kia's been doing forever. So that's a really, really nice feature. There was one other thing that I thought was really nice. I don't know. I just think the size and the presence of the vehicle is pretty cool. It actually probably could have had rear steer, and because it's a long boy, but it's got a great turning radius. So when we go into the parking garage here, let's go try this out, because they have those narrow curbs. If I curb this thing, I owe the guys a set of wheels. Oh no. So let's not crash it here. In we go to the parking garage, the ultimate city test. We have these sort of width restriction stuff, 7-foot height clearance. We didn't crash into anything. Oh boy. It does feel quite wide, but I can hit this camera button and I get a 360-degree view of everything that I'm doing. Maybe you could show the viewers this on your phone, Alyssa, if you wouldn't mind taking a quick video we could overlay. And so here I have a front, well, it just went away, but let me slow down a little bit. Here I have a front camera that I can change into, sort of a less...
My phone froze.
Oh no. Your phone did what my phone has been doing.
Oh no.
Well, anyway, maybe the viewers will be able to see it on this camera, which I think they are able to. Yeah, we really should let's floor it. The parking guys here, they really love giving tickets.
And
that was our opportunity to end it all.
No, that's not. No. But they'll.
I also love how they use Leafs.
Yeah, they do. They use Leafs, and it takes two of them to do it, and they'll literally park in the middle of the road to give somebody a ticket and block the whole traffic. Yeah,
it's like exacerbating the problem. Anyway, yeah, cruising through here, the parking garage. I mean, some of these are tight, but it's not bad. There's like a Kia Telluride. This seems to be about the same size as a Telluride. I think a lot of people probably think it's a Telluride. Those people who were kind of checking it out. It does get some looks. It does get some interest from the general public. These curbs and speed bumps feel really nice. No motor cogging, really great drivetrain, fantastic one pedal driving, great brake pedal. I mean, it's tuned so well. Let's do there's a Telluride in front of us, by the way. So that's like the combustion equivalent. There's a full turn. That's an amazing turning radius.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty damn good. I don't think you could expect any more than that. And it's actually the same turning radius, rear-wheel drive to all-wheel drive. And it's about 2 and a bit turns lock to lock, 2 1/4, 2 1/2. I just think the on-center steering is just a little bit lazy. I'm sure there's a chassis dynamics reason as to why at high speed and it doesn't have a variable ratio steering. But I do think they could have made the steering a little bit quicker, because I do find that I'm, sort of hand over hand maneuvering this thing a little bit more than I would like, but it's not the end of the world. Rivian definitely has 10 times better steering feel and a better steering wheel. This is still thick and padding. There's no feel that comes through here. It's not a performance-y car, but the chassis was really nice on the back road we found, where I thought it was almost more predictable than the R1S in a performance setting. I think I would almost prefer to be in this one on a back road than the R1S. I'd have to drive them back to back for a real comparison, but
yeah, it's been a while since we've been in an R1S.
Yeah, my T drives a lot better than the S last time I tried it, but I also haven't driven the S since they've updated the suspension. So yeah,
take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. It's been a while since I've been in an updated one. You can tell just how long the wheelbase is when you hit those bumps, and then you wait, and then the rear comes up and over. Yep. So yeah, really, really good size, really good cameras to help you out. I think especially coming through these sort of width restriction things, pulling up, being able to hit this button down here, and let's hit don't show this again, and just being able to navigate with this overhead view. So I know I'm not curbing anyone's wheels is really nice, because out the front, the hood is long and straight and it's kind of hard to see versus just drive by camera and pay attention to your surroundings. That was actually incredibly useful driving through there in such a big car. And yeah, and it's just a button click away. So really good. So I would say the around town stuff is wonderful, Alyssa.
Yeah, there's really no big complaints of this car at all. Can you change the ambient lighting?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Great. I like it on purple though. I think it's kind of cool. Matches the futuristic vibe. It's pink.
It's fuchsia.
Okay. Well, I don't, it's in there somewhere. There's a million settings. Yeah, so I think the only, to wrap up our EV9 final review, I think the lease prices are, you know, this is an expensive car. There's no way to put it, no way around it. This is a 3-row, 100 kilowatt hour, dual motor, electric SUV with all the options on it. This is an $80,000 truck, just under. And I have no issues with the price. I think if you factor in the competition, if you factor in that we're driving the absolute top spec of this car, and when you factor in some of the pricing on the lower end trims, especially on the lease deals, where you do get to apply some of that $7,500 towards your lease, then it actually starts to make quite a bit of sense. And I think we are going to see these absolutely everywhere. What's surprising to me is just how many are available at our local dealer. I think they must have just sent them all to Fort Collins, because I've already seen them marked up $10,000, $15,000 at other places in the country. And the Fort Collins dealer is like, yeah, we got a bunch of them. They're available. They'll be here within a few weeks. We can do out-of-state deals, and they're all at sticker. What more could you ask for?
That's exactly how it should be.
That's how it should be. And they were great. It was actually my first time really ever meeting them. They saw our channel. They knew kind of what we were up to. But they were like, you know, we're you know, they'll take care of our viewers. And I'm like, you know what, that sounds great.
Which nobody knows this, but I have this deep love for the Hummer EV.
You do. You love the Hummer EV.
Yeah, but it's no Electra. No.
Right. Lotus Electra,
It's
Hummer EV,
yeah,
e-tron.
Hummer EV. No, I don't even know. I mean, I love my e-tron because it's my e-tron and it's my car, and it's also lost a lot of value. So there's no, like, Colt was like, oh, well, why don't you just sell the e-tron, get this? I'm like, because that doesn't
e-tron's
even make
not
sense.
worth anything.
It's
right
not
now.
worth. Yeah, exactly. But anyways, yeah, I love the Hummer EV, and I really want to check out the Hummer SUV because I haven't been in that one yet to see kind of the space. But I definitely think this one has a lot more depth height, which is very good, especially for our noof. So yeah, I mean, this definitely is a great car. Do I need another car? No, I don't need another car.
We'll be fine with our cars.
So,
but I think if you were shopping fresh, this would be on the short list.
Definitely, yes, it would. And I think one thing, like this mirror, for instance, if you do have dogs, and you should be putting them in crates and stuff like that, which is something that we've looked into as well. We just know cars are the right size for 3
This
dogs.
has plenty of room.
I think this would have plenty of room, and you could definitely kit it out, especially if you took out the seats and really make it into whatever you wanted.
But Kia needs to add a dog mode.
But Kia needs to make a dog mode. Do they have anything within app access where you can see the temperature inside while you're doing it?
I don't think you can monitor the temperature, but you can set the temperature.
Yeah, that's not enough for me.
Yeah.
You got to be able to monitor that temperature. But you can also order like other products, like I think a Waggle,
Yep,
and keep it in the car, and those give you alerts and stuff like that to the temperature. But anyways, yeah, good car.
Really good car. There's
really
almost nothing to complain about.
No, it is really comfortable, and
This should just be the default family hauler.
I think it honestly will be. I mean, people who are wanting to get into the EV space and have kids, because that was a lot of people's comments within the R1S is, oh, we want a family hauler, this, and that. Even though we made a video to prove that it really isn't the best family hauler.
Like the R1S is fine until you have like 2 car seats.
until you have really young children.
The rear facing
Yeah,
ones.
the rear facing and having young children.
But this has so much more room for rear facing seats than the R1S.
Oh yeah, I mean this would be perfect. I'd actually be at the family that we did that with to see what they think about this. I think the mom will be.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the mom will be pretty enthused about this over the R1S, but I think the dad is really a Rivian fan, and he just likes the tech of all that. Which,
yeah, and going off-road here, like all these things, the Rivian's far more adventurous than this.
Yeah.
But if you're just cruising around like we are now, this is the car. This is the car. So I have to say I'm getting a butt massage right now. I didn't even know it did that.
Oh.
This is crazy.
Thank goodness.
And I gotta say, props to Kia. You guys nailed it. This thing rocks. I can't wait to drive some of the lower trim options to see if you really lose some of the magic. But at least here, if you're going top spec, even if you're coming out of something really nice and luxurious, you're not going to miss anything. The plastic stuff you'll get over in a second. And yeah,
they're just little touch points, but they don't bother me at all.
Nope. So yeah, great work, Kia. Thank you guys for joining on this long video where we explore the EV9 together, essentially on a test drive for the first time. Huge thanks to Kia Fort Collins to loading us this car today, but also in the future for charge test and range test and 10% challenge on a day with a bit better weather conditions. So yeah, thank you all, and we'll see you on another one again soon. Bye-bye.
Peace and blessings.